She felt her cheeks burning, and she knew that she was blushing. The distant noises that had been assaulting her ears were now gone, out of focus, fading out. Talking between friends, laughter from people in crowds and groups of dear buddies, they were all non-existent to her. The music playing in the small gym was the only sound that truly mattered to her then and there, the heavy electronic basses matching the symphony of her own heart. It was beating at an incredible rate, pounding away as it circulated her blood through her body. It felt like it would burst. She felt lightweight, her mind blanketed by a hazy fog. His lips felt soft and warm on her own, which were as cold as the snow of winter. He was kissing her, and it was an amazing feeling for her to experience. Her first kiss with her crush. The touch of his lips sent her into a love coma, losing control of her mind. The act had been swift. He had moved into her personal space, and she thought that he was going to whisper into her ear a long-term secret, a sweet nothing. But she had been wrong. He had kissed her on the lips deliberately. It seemed so inconceivable, so impossible, so insane for him to finally make her dreams come true. But the kiss was real. Real, real, real. Real. She loved him so much. He was the only one who cared for her. No one else did. Not her father, not her mother, not even herself. No one else cared for her. He was the only one who did. It wasn't weird for her to love him that much, right? He was her everything after all. Her lifeline in her detestable world. Shown her some slipping ray of hope for her to lead a happy life. She had seen many dark things. Many dark things. Her world was clouded by darkness, mixed with death and depression. Her best friend had committed suicide after being knocked up. She had found the body and the rope after the morning after a sleepover. The face was already pale blue, and the eyes were already glossed over, reflective of glass. She had screamed and screamed and screamed. Her friend's older brother had to burst into the room in response to the screams. She didn't go to the funeral because she had been too traumatized to get out of bed that day.
No, Alice, please don't! I need you!
When she was 6, her mother fell down the steps. She had been there, staring down at her crumpled heap of a mother whose legs were bent at unnatural angles and her bump of a stomach underneath her. She had just stood there with eyes wide and her mouth slack, even when her mother had cried out in pain and her father, an expression of horror and panic, called 911. And she had been there when the doctors had whispered something about someone not making it. After that, her mother never wanted to meet her request for a baby sister.
Jenny, please! Come back! I wanted you!
She had seen so many dark, disturbing things. Her mother's miscarriage, her best friend's suicide, all the bullying that had taken her to the edge of sanity and happiness. The whispers that were uttered behind her back by the popular girls. The isolation, death. All helped her to become broken and wounded. Shattered both emotionally and mentally. And all formed to make her one fear. Her one phobia that kept her awake at night. Her fear of abandonment. Her fear of abandonment had finally reached unbearable levels as a result. The possibility that someone she loved would leave her and reserve her back to the hell known as isolation sent her over the edge. She had woken up multiple times with sweat beading on her forehead, screaming after a nightmare. In said nightmare, she was rejected, abandoned by... No. He couldn't leave her. He just couldn't. He loved her and would never do something to break her heart, right? Yes. Yes, she was right. She would never have her heart broken by her crush. She loved him, admired him, worshipped him. She loved 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 him, and no one would stand in her way to his heart. And that was when she finally broke. But she didn't know that. She only thought of one thing. The only person who didn't call her names. The one person who she could trust. The one person who loved her. Him. Her crush. The guy who was kissing her right that very moment, drowning out the sounds of her world. She felt above the clouds of sanity, above the weight of reality. She knew that he loved her, worshipped her. He had to fantasize about making love to her. He loved her as much as she loved him. The final thin strands of sanity snapped without a whisper. The last verge of her logical mind, already torn and beginning to shatter, was taken away from her. She felt weightlessness, happiness, love, obsession, affection. She was going to make sure that he would never leave her side, break her so fragile heart, make her want to be away from him, and she would do anything to prevent from being separated from him. She would kill for him. She felt his lips part from her own and open her eyes. She stared at his face, a mask of glee, loving smile on it. She felt herself smile, an innocent and beautiful one. They leaned back in, their lips connecting again, sparks flying, love consuming, and she moaned. She loved him, and he loved her. And finally, she slipped into that sweet, sweet insanity known as love.